Okay. I have to wait. Chair is occupied.
Sur la télévision, ça marche bien.
Ah ouais?
Ouais.
Apparently, it's coming through on the television stations as well, so that's no problem. I suppose it might depend on what you're saying.
Is it working? Monsieur Fortin, est-ce que vous pouvez...
Oui.
Okay, Mr. Fortin. I'll start again. I'm in French. Bilingualism is important in the House of Commons, and we are all very pleased that we can express ourselves in either English and French and be understood. Do I need to keep rattling on? No? Well, I can sing if you would like. Okay, I'll carry on. I don't know what to talk about unless we get back to the topic in hand. It's a lovely day outside. Okay. Are we good, Mr. Hellfather? Well, I given my earpiece, and apparently it works. This is new units that we're using here. There's still a little fine-tuning, I guess, to be done. Is everyone capturing the interpretation? Well, I hear it very, very well.
Et moi, je ne suis...
And I'm just absolutely zero as far as technology goes. So, no, I hear you clearly, Mr. Fortin. Can I start back? Do I get my full 6 minutes? Yes. Once again. I apologize, first of all, for the inconvenience, but bilingualism on the Hill is a principle that we respect, and we try to make sure rigorously apply it. Bon, for the third time, I'm very pleased to see all these students here who came to testify on the situation which we all find horrible, the stress and strain that you're living through on campus. A university campus is a place to learn, to exchange, where we should all feel free to exchange all points of view, with vigor if we need to, that's fine, but respectfully. And situations that you've described are far from respectable and are totally inappropriate and unacceptable. I agree with Professor Oberman, with all that he said. Particularly, it stung when he said it's important that you make law, but you have to respect law. That's a fundamental truth. We have a criminal code that's fairly heavy. We can keep adding offenses infinitum, but this will not resolve, in my humble opinion, the underlying problem or what we see on the ground. As legislators, we have a responsibility, a severe and serious, to provide a model of respect in our dialogue, our discussions. But there have been, I could give you some examples of very vulgar, unparliamentary, undignified language, or any Canadian citizen. It happens here in public, sometimes on the Hill, and it should never happen, but it does occur. It's unfortunately a partial tendency of this rising of coarse, rude, crude language pretty much everywhere today, and it's particularly true currently on the campuses. Sorry for the preamble, but I have to give you my point of view. Okay, that being said, Master Oberman, I'd like to hear from all of you, of course. This is totally unacceptable. That's fine. You can, and we agree with you. But to each and every one of you, what do you think is the underlying cause of all this? Why is this happening right now? October the 7th, of course, put a match to the fuse. But on university campuses in Canada, you obviously must be discussing things that you feel strongly about without becoming a victim and target for this type of behavior, this harassment, this attack. So why is this happening? What's your opinion on that?
So I think a lot of it has to do with Jew hatred. I think, look, I'm always saying it. I think I'm more pro-Palestinian than the people that are screaming the things that they're screaming, because I actually want the people in Gaza to have a decent life. But in order to do so, we have to get rid of Hamas. And I didn't see these people standing outside and screaming and chanting when Syria murdered 500,000 Arabs, or when Egypt didn't open the borders for the people of Gaza. I didn't see them going on the streets and protesting about it. So I think it has everything to do with Jew hatred, and it has nothing to do with the people in Gaza. And it's sad to see it. I also think that once you let criminals commit crimes without any consequences, they will continue making crimes. So I think once we'll see university administrations, university presidents taking steps and doing something against it, we will be able to stop it. So we have to make sure that the university presidents are going to do something, are standing up against the criminals. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Chayek.
Thank you very much. Ms. Nash, you have...
In Western society, that Jews are white and white people are the oppressors. But Jews are not white. We're an indigenous people that come from the land of Israel, and we are demonized as being the oppressors on campus, such that people don't want to partake in conversation with us, and they're able to label us as Zionists rather than as Jews, to make that the ills of the world. We see this throughout history. Jews have been demonized through the ills of the world. We were communists and we were capitalists and we were vermin and we take over democratic institutions, and today we're called Zionists.
Merci. Juste peut-être rapidement, Madame Nash.
And is there a distinction between the Canadian Jewish diaspora here, or the Jewish community in Israel and elsewhere in the world, and the state, the government of Israel? Do you, or does everybody confuse and it's the same?
People from political parties who are all Canadians and don't all have the same opinions on the actions of the Canadian government. So why would it be the same for Jews and for Israelis?
Merci. Thank you. Mr. Garrison, for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm going to have a shorter preamble, I hope, than Mr. Fortin. That would be the normal practice. But I want to start by joining Mr. Housefather in saying that when I voted in favor of this study, I naively assumed that this committee might be able to set aside relentless partisanship to shine a light on this problem and to search for solutions. And so I am disappointed at some of the early things that have happened in this room, and I hope we will get our focus back onto the problem of anti-Semitism and the problems that Jewish students are facing. I am not surprised, as anyone who has ties to the Jewish community. I have ties in my riding, and I have long historic family ties to Jewish communities. But it's still shocking to hear all of you here from your various backgrounds and various institutions reporting the same thing happening in Canada. And so I thank you for bringing this to the public attention, and I thank you for taking the risk that you're taking personally, because I know there's a personal risk of retaliation and harassment as a result of being here today, and I don't think we should minimize that at all. So we owe you a debt of thanks for being here. I particularly want to hear what you have to say about this problem. rather than make a long speech myself. And I know that at the beginning, a couple of you didn't get to quite finish your remarks, so I'm going to actually give an opportunity, without asking you a specific question. I'm going to go to Mr. Shayak first, and anything that you didn't quite get to do within that time, and I'll make the same available to others.
So, first of all, thank you. One thing that I wanted to say is something that I wanted to tell you about something that happened to me. The other day, I went to the McGill encampment to watch it, and when I came back home, I found out that there is a video, a 3 minutes, full 3 minutes video about me, pictures of me, videos of me, on Instagram with more than 100,000 views posted by the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas students, saying that I'm dangerous, that I'm an ex-IDF soldier, and if you see me on the street, call the police. And I'm an international student, so they told people to file complaints against me to the immigration system, so they will not renew my study permit or my student visa. So I had, together with my friend Anastasia, she's here too, we had to hire private security to protect ourselves. And I will never forget the moment, November 2023, after the November 8th incident, I got a phone call from my mother saying, come back to Israel, it's safer here than in Canada. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I think it's on. Oh, perfect. Thank you for giving the opportunity. I just wanted to end my speech with an invitation. If you don't like what you're seeing here, I would love to have you help me. I was offered by the institution last year to have a menorah lighting in a side room. So let's do that next year. Come, join me, light a menorah, bring your trees. Je pense que la culture canadienne, française.
I believe that Canadian culture, French or English, is accepted by the universities, and we have to include.
Tired of this, so bring your trees. Let's light some menorahs, and let's make campuses safe for Christians, Jews, and every other student who doesn't feel safe now.
Thank you. Mr. Tarshish.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. One thing that, a question that was asked before, which is like, why is all of this happening? And I just want to talk about a few other pieces, which is, firstly, Jew hatred is obviously, anti-Semitism exists in society. We swim in it. It's just, systemic. It's always been there. It's 2,000 years old. It's going to take a long time to get rid of it. That's why we at Hillel talk about pushing anti-Semitism to the margins of campus, not getting rid of it, because it's not reality, and we have to ground ourselves in the reality. There will always be extremists, there will always be people with terrible opinions, but the thing that most concerns me is the rampant misinformation and disinformation that is spreading amongst young people, driven basically by young people not engaging with critical thinking. A great phrase I learned recently, constellation of belief.
J'ai entendu parler de constellation de croyances. Alors, si je connais une de vos croyances, une étoile, un élément, je connais les 20 autres éléments. Si je crois ceci, je crois automatiquement cela. Je pense que c'était un campement américain qui a vu un étudiant dire « Vous devriez savoir que la République démocratique de Corée forme des Palestiniens. » Ils ont toujours été solidaires avec les Palestiniens. Le message sous-entendu, c'est que la Corée du Nord est du bon côté. Voilà, il faut mettre l'accent sur la pensée critique, surtout chez les jeunes gens.
This situation where young people don't need to know history, don't need a basic history, like really basic things are shocking to me.
I'm going to give the same opportunity to Ms. Pressman and then Ms. Nash.
Anti-Semitism has always been a conspiracy myth, and where it puts the Jew in the position as what is considered evil in society. And societies change, and what we consider evil changes. And I think it's great that we have more of a cultural awareness of discrimination and of hatred towards all people. But Jews, because of the way anti-Semitism functions, are put as the oppressor, which is what is considered evil in our society. And that's a good thing that we're being aware of discrimination and oppression, but Jews are put in the position where we are seen as helping that. And that's why I think there's a lot of anti-Semitism in society and how it continues to kind of be that way.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Thank you. We will now go to our second round, notre deuxième tour, and we will start with Madame Landsman. 5 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for coming. I think that there is going to be a lot of people that look up to you from now on, and I hope that you give them the voice and the courage that you've had today to come here. I appreciate that some people don't want to make this partisan, but I want you to know that there are members of the House of Commons who have been at those encampments. And there are people that have a voice that actually sit at the table that have made it more dangerous to be a Jew in the country. And there are some people that speak out of both sides of their mouth that sit in the powers of government. And there are some people who do not have a seat at the table who say all of the right things in the right venues, and do not be fooled by them. Now, I want to know if just a quick yes or no. Do you feel safe on campus, Rachel?
No.
Do you feel safe on campus? No. Do you feel safe on campus?
No.
Nicole, do you feel safe on campus?
No.
Do you think that the government has done enough to protect Jewish students or have anybody enforce the law on campus? Just a yes or no.
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 No. How many, just an estimation, how many Canadian flags have you seen at any of these protests on campus?
Not just at protests, very, very few, if not any, Canadian flags at all.
0.
I've not seen any.
What an abject failure, first of all, by universities, and an abject failure by the government, frankly, to hold them to account by the money that they provide in granting councils, in Canada Research Chair money, in operational funding at all. What an abject failure by the government to call this out for what it is. I just want to show you something. This is a member of Parliament who stood with somebody who denies the Holocaust, with somebody who denies October 7th, who stood with you at a press conference yesterday. This is 2 ministers in our government that have a voice at the table. Do you think pictures like this help? Yes or no? Rachel?
No.
Last time I checked, I don't have to say yes or no. I don't think that's necessarily relevant to what we're discussing right now. Obviously, the community is harmed by that picture, but
Thank you.
I think, okay.
I'd like to be asked a question about my experience on campus.
Yeah.
Sure. Neil? I just want to bring you into this discussion.
Well, the problem here is that when people speak out of both sides of their mouth, they give no answers. And the reality is that's why I had to go to court to get a neutral arbiter to make a decision to help these people. And every time I look at these poor students, I think to myself, what has Canada come to? How is it that when I open my door in the morning and I look outside, je ne reconnais pas ma ville. I don't know where I live. But I will tell you this. Forget about the politics for a moment. Let's talk about what the police are doing. How is the policy not being put in place for police to enforce existing laws? Why is it that in 2024, it's sad that we need a committee to have these students come here so that you hear what's happening? I will leave you with this. Words have meaning. When people say things that are not right, they impact us all. I want to point out to this honourable committee that on March the 4th, words had many meanings, but more importantly, bombs, threats, violence, aggression, that is in Canada. C'est pas de Québec, c'est pas Canada.
It's not Quebec, it's not Canada.
For certain, Mrs. Landsman, if these young people leave, there will be no committee in the future. This is your future. These are your people. Please, whatever you do, stop what's going on. McGill is an example of what happens when you do nothing. You cannot sit on a fence, act neutral, and eat chocolate and expect things to solve themselves. This isn't partisanship. This is reality.
I want to know if you believe that the government's rhetoric and its policy choices have done anything to protect the Jewish community, or has it put them in danger?
I'm going to be clear for everybody here, and I'm no politician. I'm just a simple lawyer. You can think what you want. But when you look at action and you look at reaction, you have your answer. Because everything that you see here is a result of a void that's created. And when there's ambiguity, people who hate, people who don't like, they take advantage of this. And what they do is they take it as a cue to continue with their actions. When you send a bad message, you get a bad reaction. Who's responsible for that? Government.
Perfect. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Mr. Mendocino for 5 minutes, please.
I'm going to start by thanking each and every one of the students who have come before this committee. In a time of great anxiety, darkness, fear, and anger, you are all a beacon of hope and optimism and courage. And you are role models. And I have no doubt that at the end of this exercise, not only will we have emerged as a stronger country, but each and every one of you will do your families very proud. I want to start by just saying that. You guys are incredible. You're an inspiration. I am going to read from Concordia University's Values and Mission Statement website. It says the following: Concordia values a secure and respectful learning environment and workplace. Concordia is committed to promoting a healthy, safe, and sustainable campus and to enhancing the quality of life of the community in which we live. I'm sure that other schools have similar policies in place. I'm going to go from left to right. Ms. Nashin, do you believe that your school is living up to that mission statement?
No.
Ms. Pressman?
No.
Mr. Ashayak?
I'm a Concordia student, and when I hear that, I don't know if I should laugh or I should cry.
Ms. Cook?
No.
And finally?
No.
As Jewish students, do you believe that in the course of your experience, particularly over the last several months, that your right as Jewish people to self-determination has been undermined? Ms.
Yes.
Nashin?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Just undermined, openly mocked.
I'm not a student, but I work with students, and yes, I see it every single day.
In the course of your experience and as Jewish students or active members of university campuses, have you heard others claim that the existence of the State of Israel is a racist endeavor?
At the encampment, I've repeatedly heard the chant, "All Zionists are racists, all Zionists are terrorists."
Mr. President.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
In the course of your experience, have you heard the Jewish people accused of exaggerating the Holocaust?
Yes.
I think I'm going to answer that question also because it wasn't directed to students. The problem that we've seen is that people use social media in order to put out falsities and narratives in order to support and fuel their hatred. And so the answer is not only yes, look at the law. The law prohibits it, but nobody's enforcing it, and that's the problem.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, several times.
Yes, and openly deny.
Yes.
In the course of your experience, have you heard people celebrate October 7th and celebrate Hamas?
Yes.
Not only celebrate, sir, they promote, they strategize on how to use it as a tool to continue to oppress not only these students, but anybody who loves democracy and freedom. And it is happening in our country right now, and it's regrettable.
Thank you.
Yes.
Again, last night, the resistance in Gaza led a heroic attack against the occupation and has taken over 30 hostages. I don't even need to read it because I remember it. It was on October 8th by ASPHR Concordia. And ASPHR Concordia is still a club, and the students are still students with no consequences, nothing.
I will never forget hearing on October 8th the chant, "There are no civilians."
Yeah, incredibly concerning. I would also point you to the fact that Jewish students are seeing. Sorry, I had something and it's gone.
It's okay. Have you heard that individuals have tried to diminish or suggest that these are isolated incidents. And is that consistent with what you've seen? In other words, is this pervasive? Is this occurring consistently, daily, in your schools, in your communities?
In March, at McGill University, someone walked around campus for over 4 hours with a sign that said, on October 7th, Israel massacred its own people to justify genocide.
Social media has been used in order to continue with this false narrative. And by the way, in our injunctions, a majority of our evidence emanated from their own videos in which they glorify hatred, violence, and then I have to show it to a judge so the judge understands what's going on. So the answer is yes, yes, and unfortunate.
Okay, merci, Monsieur Mendicino. Now we will go to Monsieur Fortin, 2.5 minutes.
On n'a pas le temps pour davantage. Il reste une demi-heure, Madame le Président.
Well, we have a whole half hour ahead. We could do a full round. It depends. Okay. I've heard all of the answers and the questions from my colleague, Member Mendicino. So I'd like to know what you feel that the universities should do in response to this situation.
Policies.
How to implement? Qu'est-ce que concrètement?
Yes, but concretely, what should they do?
Received an email from McGill University every single day saying that there was an illegal encampment on our university. Having said that, a week and a half later, it's still there.
Merci. Maître Oberman.
Mr. Oberman, well, you have to stop believing that we can soothe everybody. We can't be neutral in this situation. And McGill is very clear. The rules exist. They should be followed, but there has to be some will to do so. Without the motivation to do something, nothing will happen. Do you support the injunction? You know what they answered me? We're not the ones that put forward the injunction.
Happen.
Merci. Je m'excuse, mais il me reste comme une minute. Madame Pressman, votre...
Ms. Pressman, I only have a minute left. What should their stance be, their attitude vis-a-vis this deplorable situation?
Universities are not properly upholding our rights as students. There needs to be they also need to be using their own policies, but they need to be very clear about how anti-Semitic incidents should be dealt with, so we're not put in the situation where for months we're being tossed around to different departments. And they also need to be using their own student code of conduct and understand that even if hateful speech isn't the same as hate speech, it should still be seen as dangerous to the Jewish student community. And, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an easy answer. I think the university has to enforce its own policies and bylaws. If a student pushed a police officer on campus, threatened students...
You're a bit close to the microphone, I'm told by the interpreters. They can hear you. Just
yes.
Move away from the microphone.
Can you hear me? Okay. If a student pushed a police officer on campus, if a student the same student threatened the life of students, of other students, physically attacked other students, was arrested twice since the incident, and he is still a student at Concordia University, I don't know what to say anymore.
Madame Cook.
Madame Cook.
Reactive. If you...
How to be proactive.
Yes, the university... Instead of having students have to make complaints, cultivate an environment where people do not feel empowered to behave as openly and as freely as they do now with their hateful and divisive views.
Thank you, Mr. Fortin. Merci. Mr. Garrison, 2.5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I'm going to give some time to Ms. Nation to add anything she wants to this debate, because I feel like our format sometimes really restricts those who are presenting. So I'll start by doing that.
I want to talk about a protest that took place at McGill University at the end of March, where a crowd of protesters, as they do at all protests, were chanting "Viva Viva Intifada." And I asked a senior administrator at McGill if saying we should kill all, insert group here, people, would that violate the McGill Code of Conduct? And they said yes. And I said, why does calling for intifada not violate the McGill Code of Conduct? They said, because calling for the genocide of a group of people explicitly violates the law. And so therefore it violates the code of conduct. But where the law fails to protect us as Jewish students, our universities provide no extra protections.
Ms. Pressman.
That I'm here on behalf of the Canadian Union of Jewish Students. CUJS is a nonpartisan organization that has multiple students who are involved in different political parties. At the end of the day, when we see a sign calling for an intifada, at the end of the day, when we are excluded from our classes and we face violence, every single Jewish student is affected, regardless of the fact if they're NDP, Liberal, Bloc, Green, or Conservative. We are all equally affected by this, and in my role here, I want to raise awareness about the fact that we are all dealing with this. I may have my own opinions, other people may have their own opinions, but I'm here talking on behalf of Jewish students, and yes, there is a feeling that we could get more support from the government. That is true. Some of us do feel that way. But we're working together to combat this hatred because everyone in this room here cares about anti-Semitism on campus. And I'm here on behalf of Canadian Union of Jewish Students to work with all of you, regardless of any partisanship that may be in this room. So thank you.
And Ms. Scott.
I just want to say that I hope the University of Alberta starts taking a proactive approach, bringing students together. We are a nation of two languages, many, many cultures, and many, many differences of opinion. And if the university had been on the week after October 7th proactive about bringing people together in a good faith attempt to have discussions, this may not have happened, and it wouldn't be to the point where I physically dread walking onto campus every day.
Thank you. Mr. Shai.
I just wanted to make one thing clear. What we're doing here today and what me and my friends are doing since October 7th, we're not doing it only for the Jewish community. We're doing it for all the communities. Today it's about the Jews, tomorrow it's another minority. We have to solve it now. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now go to Mr. Van Poptap for 5 minutes, please.
Good. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for being here today. I'm shocked to hear about anti-Semitism. I was raised by Dutch immigrant parents who left the Netherlands after World War II, and I was raised on stories about Dutch people protecting Jewish people, hiding them sometimes for years on end, the Dutch resistance against the Nazi occupiers. My grandfather died in a Nazi concentration camp for his defense of Jewish people. So that's what I was raised on, and I had thought anti-Semitism was dead, but obviously I'm naive about these sorts of things. I was very shocked, as was the whole world, about what happened in Israel on October 7th. But now I got to tell you, I'm also very, very shocked as to what's going on at campuses in Canada, that I thought was a free and democratic nation, and a country of the rule of law, where the laws should be enforced. So I'm shocked to hear these stories, and thank you for your bravery, for your courage, for standing up for everything that is right and decent. But I do have a question. I think I'll direct it at Nicole. Ned, you've equated, I thought it was a very interesting analysis, equating being Jewish and being Zionist, and anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, you're equating them. But here's my question for you. In an environment of free speech, free expression, is there room for right-thinking people to be critical of the modern state of Israel today and the way it is conducting itself in the Middle East, and in particular in the war in Gaza right now?
In August last summer, before October 7th, I was in Israel, and one of my proudest moments ever to be Jewish was going with my cousins to the protest in Tel Aviv. Jewish people always like to argue and have lots of different opinions on the actions of the Israeli government, and that does not make us any less Zionist or any less proud in our homeland. Natan Sharansky has 3 Ds of anti-Semitism: demonization, delegitimization, and double standard. You can criticize the actions and the policies of the Israeli government without saying that Jews don't have the right to live there.
Thank you. And do you hear that level of discourse in your university today, or is it more of these protests that we're hearing about?
2 years ago, long before October 7th, when I was the president of Hillel at Concordia, I had been sharing a lot about my activism and about the activities that we were doing at Hillel on campus, and I posted that we were going to be tabling in the Hall building. This was 2 years before October 7th. For hours, every 30 minutes, groups of people would come up from behind us and put stickers all over the material that we were giving out that said boycott Israeli apartheid. Finally, after about 3 hours of this happening repeatedly, 2 individuals came to find me who I'd never seen before, but I had been stalked on Instagram by accounts like Intifada 1999. They came to find me and they said, "Nikki Nashin, why do you support Israeli apartheid?" To which I responded, "I've never met you before. How do you know my name?"
Good, thank you for that. I have another question. I'm not sure to whom to direct it, but it's this concept of equivalency. We often hear from Canadian leaders that when they talk about anti-Semitism, they also mention Islamophobia. And I just wonder if that is at all helpful to the conversation about how we manage anti-Semitism. Maybe Mr. Oberman to you.
I think that's an excellent question. I thank you for posing it because, you know, to make something legitimate, it doesn't have to be posed against something else. Let me give you the example. The moon and the sun, they both exist, not at the same time. One rises, one sets. But I can tell you this, when you try to say anti-Semitism must be the flip side of something, it delegitimizes it. It says it cannot exist onto itself. It must have something else to make it legitimate. I reject it. It's false. It's a narrative that is exactly what Nicole said. There's always a way to wrap your explanations. It's anti-Semitism, but it's not. It's anti-Islamophobia, but it's... The reality is this, sir. Anti-Semitism can exist by itself. It exists by itself. It has for 5,784 years. There are greater people out there who have tried to destroy the Jewish population. They have enslaved the Jews. They have murdered the Jews. But here's one thing that's not going to happen. And this is the message for each of you. These people are our future. We will not accept it. We will not tolerate it. If you want to create new laws, start enforcing the existing laws, and maybe we'll get somewhere.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Where am I? Mr. Bruson, for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. I come to this table in perhaps a unique situation for the people at this table because I'm not only a Jewish woman, but I am a mother, a Jewish mother of 2 Jewish students on university campuses in North America right now. So I actually do want to say that I really thank all of the students for coming here and speaking. I have indirectly, but through my children, been living that reality, and it is so important that you come. And I want to thank Anthony for having really spearheaded this study, because I think it's really important that we take that moment. So I just wanted to put that there. And if I feel emotional, it's because I am. This is personal, just as it is for you. Yesterday I heard, and I think you have mentioned in some of your speeches, about holding events, Jewish events, and then being told that they can't happen in that way or seeing them disrupted. So I was going to use an example, and maybe if I can start with Nati, but an example of Holocaust Remembrance Day. Were you at Queen's able to commemorate Holocaust Remembrance Day in the same way as you would have in past years? No. And what was the reason that you were unable to do so?
We were told it wasn't safe for us.
And did security from the university or the university administration talk to you about what they could do to make you safe so that you would be able to go ahead as you normally would?
We took every precaution possible that they told us to take.
All right. If I can ask Nicole, I don't know if you had the same experience on McGill campus, but did you see Holocaust Remembrance Day recognized in the same way as in past years at McGill this year? Yeah. And how was it different?
I don't know of any event that took place.
Okay. And just, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you know why it wouldn't, like, has it happened in past years? Do you know why it was different this year?
It has happened in past years.
Okay, thank you. And if I can ask the other 2 students, maybe starting with Rachel.
This is my first year at the University of Alberta, so I don't know if Holocaust remembrance occurrences have happened in previous years, but the day that I walked by the art display with a swastika on it was Holocaust Remembrance Day this year.
Thank you. And Mikael?
I cannot answer this specific question, but I can tell you that when we're trying to have events on campus, Concordia, Graham Carr, the administration are telling us that it's not safe for us. The last event we tried to have was the screening of the Nova Festival movie, and we were asked to pay $500 for security guards.
Okay, thank you. If I can ask, on behalf of Hillel Canada, have you seen any universities in Canada who've been getting it right and that have been doing the right actions to protect Jewish students on campus?
Nobody has been doing enough. I'll start by saying that. I work at Queen's, and I have great relationships throughout the university administration. I meet with people regularly. Do I feel like they're doing enough? No, and I tell them that regularly. I hear from colleagues that often administrators are friendly. They want to help, but they have no idea. We are in a situation where the blind is leading the blind. No one knows what to do, and it shows.
Okay, thank you. Just because I don't have much time, and I wanted to ask about, it's come up a few times, DEI policies. And does it properly include Jewish voices as part of it? I see Nicole had her hand up, so maybe if I can start with you.
I think that it is important that rather demonizing EDI policies as a package, we need to include Jews in those EDI policies. My grandfather was born in Yemen. My grandmother was born in Morocco. I am not white. And the Jews that might appear white here are not white either, because when the Holocaust happened and all of them had the same color skin as everyone else in Eastern Europe, they were still gassed and burned because they were not considered white enough for that society.
I am under 30 seconds, so I'm going to ask people to put in written submissions, if you can, about how to better include Jewish voices in DEI policies. But if I can ask quickly, Nati, because you had your hand up, and I don't know if you might be able to speak to it, about including also safe spaces intersectionally when we're looking at DEI policies, if you might have something to add on that.
My funding at my university goes to an initiative for queer people to feel safe. That same club posts images supporting October 7th. I don't feel safe in queer spaces, and I should be feeling safe in those spaces. And our funding, my student funds, should go to those places to make sure that I feel safe with them, because I can't take away one part of my identity. It's all my identity. I'm this one person, and I can't check it at the door because it's who I am.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Looking at the time, I can go 3 minutes each per each of the four parties, and I need about 3 minutes for committee business as well. So I'm going to ask Ms. Gladue to start.
Very good. So the federal government has a responsibility to put criminal code in place to set the law and to ensure that it's enforced. And so in the criminal code, it's an offense to advocate or promote genocide, to publicly incite hatred in a way that's likely to lead to a breach of the peace, to willfully promote hatred against an identifiable group, to willfully promote anti-Semitism, or to commit mischief related to certain forms of property that's motivated by bias, prejudice, or hate. And yet all of these things are happening across the country. And if we have heard from your testimony about the things that are happening on campus, we could add to that the blocking at Avenue Road of critical infrastructure, which is also illegal. We could add the blocking of the road in front of Mount Sinai Hospital, which was also illegal. And in all of these cases, we do not see universities enforcing their code of conduct. We do not see the police arresting people for committing what are crimes. And also, the federal government has not taken an action to ensure that the rule of law is enforced. Do you agree with my assessment? Start with Rachel.
On? Yes, perfect. I'm a big fan of, I guess as the university would put it, equality. If it is a secular and apolitical space, and there cannot be Christmas trees and there cannot be menorahs, then there should be no minority flags of any type. It should be strictly a secular space.
Michael.
Yes, I agree with you. Graham Carr, the president of the university, has set up a task force to address systematic discrimination, identity-based violence, and hate on campus and beyond. On the surface, this is a positive initiative, but one of the 3 co-chairs appointed is a supporter of BDS. She's against the IRA definition of anti-Semitism, and she's an anti-Zionist. I think it says everything.
Okay, Natty.
All laws should be enforced to protect Jewish people, and I also think we need to be speaking to our universities to ensure that they're upholding their own codes of conduct.
Mr. Oberman.
The rule of law doesn't apply only to Jews. It applies to all citizens of Canada. When you don't follow the rule of law, you create a vacuum for the haters. My recommendation is before you create new laws, enforce the laws that are there, and educate police and people who enforce those laws. Because just as an example, on March the 5th, when I had an injunction, the first thing the police said to me, je comprends pas. Qu'est-ce que vous voulez? What? Education, education, education. Remember what I said. Ignorance is not bliss, and education is the solution. More laws create more ambiguity before you enforce the current laws.
All right. And so what would you suggest that the federal government do to ensure that the enforcement of the rule of law is applied equally to all Canadians? I'll start with Mr. Tarshish. Oh, that was it. Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Housefather, please.
The federal government writes the criminal code. I mean, the Parliament of Canada makes the criminal code. Enforcement is provincial, not federal. And today, a lot of things have been blamed on the federal government when post-secondary institutions are the jurisdiction of the provinces, and college administrators are largely responsible for what happens, yet there seems to be an attempt by one party to pretend the federal government is responsible for everything. I again want to come back to your experiences on campus. One of the things that I've heard a lot from many sources is that these demonstrations are not at all anti-Semitic. It's a small, tiny group of people that are anti-Semitic at these demonstrations. I think you've all said that you don't agree with that. What universities, we're going to have the opportunity to call university presidents to this committee if we would like to do that, and I think we should. What universities presidents should we call? Ms. Pressman, you have a national organization. Could you give us some examples of who we should call?
I mean, I would say all of them, but to be realistic, OCAD University, I think, is one to do it in Toronto, TMU. I also think Emily Carr University in BC. Those are my top 3, I would say.
Mr. Tarshish, do you have a national organization?
I do have a national organization, but I don't necessarily know whether I've been in Canada for 6 years. I know the university presidents on my campus. I don't know whether.
I understand. Ms. Cook, should we call the president of the University of Alberta?
Absolutely.
Mr. Eshayek, should we call the president of Concordia?
Yes, Graham Carr should be the first one to be here. And Concordia University, we can look back. 2002, the Bibi Netanyahu riot. We can see 2014 BDS. 2021, Nikki was attacked. And 2023 and now. So Graham Carr should be here.
Ms. Nashon, should we call Dean Saney at McGill?
Yes, I've received emails from the McGill administration for the past 7 months with empty words, and I'd like to know why those words are empty and that they're not implemented with action.
Mr. Oberman, you've dealt with both Concordia and McGill. Should we call both of those presidents?
Not only should you call them, if they don't come, you should subpoena them, because those are the people that are causing the problems. Listen to what this poor student has to say. And Anthony, you are correct. But you know, funding of justice is a key issue today in Canada. And when the judges don't have enough ability to sit in court because there's not enough staff, there are issues. But I will tell you this.
I understand. I have other questions and I have very limited time.
I understand.
And I understand funding is an issue.
Help us solve the problem. No distinctions made. Concordia is a top offender, period.
I understand. Do I have any time left? No. 30 seconds. I'm just going to end by thanking all of you, because again, there's some times that when things may not exactly be only in our jurisdiction, just having those voices, having the national media cover those voices, and having Canadians, all those Canadians of good faith, understanding your stories and understanding what's happening on campuses, I think it's going to cause many more Canadians to rally around this cause and to push university administrators and all levels of government to do better. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, because there are CJEPs that are suffering as well.
For the Monsieur Fortin, 3 minutes pour vous et 3 minutes pour Monsieur Garrison, and then we will conclude. So.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Donc, en 3 minutes, je vais essayer de faire le tour rapidement, là, mais...
I'll try to do, in 3 minutes, I'll try to do the round. Universities should maintain an environment that does not allow this type of behavior. I believe that. Mr. Berman has indicated that the police don't intervene when they should. I concur with that. The fight that we're leading today for the Jewish community is not just for the Jewish community, it's for all Canadians. It's a social problem. We see it everywhere on many campuses. A university campus should be the most welcoming community or place all over. Always, we can have as much differences of opinion, but with mutual respect. I support what you're saying. It's totally unacceptable. To maintain a climate which does not allow this type of behavior, Madam Cook, currently in universities today, are there other cultural communities that are the targets of this kind of harassment, or is it only the Jewish community that has been isolated in this respect? Yes, in fact, some Christian communities
supported by sort of the politically popular mood of the day on campus.
Vous avez connaissance de situations qui impliquent.
So do you have any examples that you can provide that are subject to this kind of harsh behavior?
About November 8th, I said we have November 8th, we have November 23rd, we have December 13th, we have March 4th. I don't even need to look at the paper. I remember these dates. I want to tell you something. Since I was 13, the first time I came to Montreal, to Canada, was when I was 13. And it was my dream to move here. When I finished my military service, I moved here. But I never imagined that moving to Montreal will be the worst thing that happened to me because of the anti-Semitism and because of what I have to go through right now.
Désolé d'entendre ça, monsieur.
Oh, I'm very sad to hear that. You come to Quebec. I hope you stay here for a while, a long time. I have very little time left, so in my opinion, that's what we have to work on. I'm one of those who agree that we have to apply the law. We don't need a religious debate. People are entitled to practice whatever religion they have. Thank you.
For the final 3 minutes, Mr. Garrison, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I always point out, one of the advantages of being the fourth party is often you get the last questions. One of the things I have heard a lot about, and we haven't really focused on here today, is the attempt to exclude Jewish student organizations and defund them. So I'm going to start with Mr. Tarshish to talk about that experience, because I'm very concerned about that movement.
This is a regular thing. I mean, Jewish student organizations attempting to be banned on campuses. Firstly, it's not a new thing. Everyone wants us to think this is a new thing. I come from the UK originally. There were attempts to ban Jewish societies on campus in the UK from as early as 1973, especially after the UN passed its infamous Zionism is racism bill in 1975. That became a really serious thing that Jewish students had to deal with in the UK for 25 years. We've come out the other side of it, and I can tell you, coming here, it is shocking. There is a lot more that can be done right now, and seeing my organization, Hillel, be called a Zionist cultural institution, therefore not allowed on campus, is just laughable to me.
Nicole.
At the campus protests, there's often calls for the BDS movement, which effectively does not do anything to change the lives of Palestinian people. It maybe will remove sabra hummus from the cafeterias, but other than that, it labels Jewish organizations who, other than the anti-Zionist Jewish organizations that represent a fringe minority of our community, we all have ties to Israel. Hillel facilitates birthright, facilitates internships in Israel, and our organizations, our mainstream organizations that facilitate Shabbat dinners and social events are deemed complicit, and therefore funding is attempted to be removed from our organizations.
And Nadi.
For many Jews, Zionism is completely linked to our Jewish identity, to Judaism. So declaring these institutions, trying to ban them because they're Zionist, for some of us, we see it as them trying to ban them because they're Jewish.
Thank you. Rick.
No student on campus but Jewish students have to qualify their cultural heritage before they are allowed in public spaces or to be taken seriously.
Thank you. I know we just have 30 seconds as I can read. I just want to thank you again for the courage and forthrightness which you've brought to this table today. And I promise you that I know other members of the committee will work hard to make sure that your voices are reflected in the work that we do. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for appearing today. Please know that the committee chair members are here because we want to be here.